Good afternoon and welcome to the June 23rd, 2026 meeting of the Georgetown County Council. Please take this time to silence your cell phone so we can all be present for the information to be presented. Note for the record, we have a quorum present. Please join us and the Councilor Bishop Cooper leads us in the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Heavenly Father, we come before you this evening with humble hearts, seeking your wisdom and guidance as we gather to serve our community. You have entrusted us with the responsibility to lead, to decide, and to act on behalf of the people we represent. Lord, tonight we face difficult decisions, choices that carry weight, impact lives, and shape the future of our county. We ask that you grant us clarity of mind, unity of purpose, discernment beyond our own understanding. Help us to listen carefully, speak thoughtfully, and act with integrity. Guide us, put aside, help us tonight any personal interest and focus on what is just, what is right, and what we do as a people to serve. Give us the courage to make tough decisions, even when they are not easy, and the humility to seek counsel and understand from one another. Let us respect and cooperate in this room together. May our discussion be productive, our disagreement be respectful, and our decision be guided by fairness, compassion, and wisdom. Bless the people of this county. Help us to serve with integrity and faithful in all we do. It's in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all very much. Move down to the approval of agenda. The chair will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as published.
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Anderson. Is there a second? Second by Councilor Newton. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? The agenda is approved. Move down to special reports and presentations. Today's nonprofit spotlight is a Father's Place. Georgetown County and Francis P. Purnell Foundation are partnering to spotlight a local nonprofit at each county council meeting. This week's featured nonprofit is a Father's Place. Mr. Wallace Evans Jr., CEO, will present. Mr. Evans, you have the floor, sir. Welcome.
Well, good afternoon, and I'm standing in place of Mr. Wallace Evans, who is our CEO of A Father's Place. My name is Johnny Ford. I am the regional director. Mr. Evans cannot attend this evening for other commitments that he had prior. But I'm here to thank you all on behalf of A Father's Place and the Francis P. Purnell Foundation for allowing A Father's Place to just share briefly about the work we have been doing for over 25 years, not only in Georgetown County, but it's Williamsburg and Horry, and we have branched out into 7 other counties in the Low Country as well. So we take care of the whole coast. What do we do at A Father's Place? Father's Place, simply, our mission is bold, our mission is grand. We see every child having a responsible and engaged father. And as the mission states, we want to inspire those fathers, and not only to inspire them to responsible fatherhood, but we want them and families, the communities to thrive as well. And so how do we do that? We impact our fathers in various ways, because father abstinence affect what we see in society today. Statistics show that when fathers are absent, they don't have to be in the home, but if fathers are not engaged, what you see up on the screen is some of the conditions that's impacted. Just here in this country as well, those impact due to father abstinence has cost this country $154 billion when you think about healthcare, when you think about education, when you think about social services. It all points because there's a father absence. And so a fatherhood, we're part of a network of fatherhood programs that serve all 46 counties here in South Carolina. And any fatherhood program that you walk into the state, in which we all are under the South Carolina Centers for Fathers and Families, which is located in Columbia. And the program services, which are free, that we offer to our fathers, and we do have mothers in our program as well. And you can see the services that are that we offer, and through partnerships, we're so thankful to have over 15 plus years of partnership with Department of Social Services and so many of the wonderful nonprofits here in Georgetown County as well, and organizations and businesses. So those are some of the program services that we provide. And one of the top ones I can say is fathers come through our door looking for visitation assistance. They want to be engaged in the lives of their child. And so we want them to have access to their children, but have access in a simple way. I can share about statistics on how we have already impacted over 964 lives in this past year of 2025. But to really illustrate and illuminate what we're all about, I brought one of our RAMs. And a RAM is a recruiter, alumni, and a mentor. Skipper has completed our program, and he's going to share briefly his story of how the Father's Place have served him.
I'm Christopher. Thank y'all for giving me this opportunity. Be real brief. I took a lot of lefts in my life. Missed 15 years of my daughter that I can't get back. I found the Father's Place through my left turns. I'm a recovering addict. I've struggled with drugs for 18 plus years. I've been clean now for 2 years of my life. The Father's Place has helped me regain my relationship with my daughter. She's turning 18 next month. We have a relationship that I never thought we'd ever have. The relationship with my actual daughter's mother is phenomenal. Of all the lefts that I've made in my life and all the wrongs that I've made, I have been able to make things right today. And what has happened in my past is in my past. And the Father's Place has instilled values when it comes to a child, how important it is to have a mother and a father figure. I didn't realize the importance years ago, but I do today. Thanks to the Father's Place and my church and the things that I'm doing in my community with my church. I actually go out in the community now and I try to speak to the people that I know that is struggling with the same addictions in life that I have battled. And I try to share with them that there is hope. Look at me. I got scars on both arms. It's God's grace that I'm here today able to speak to y'all and show and share a little bit of the testimony on where I've been in life and where I'm at today. And I'm so thankful that I was able to run across the Father's Place and let it be one of the stepping stones in my life, on top of other things with church and my God, that I'm able to live an actual normal life, as I call it, as what we live, the American dream, as what it should be, is about family and your kids and the next generation that's going to be coming up, to instill things into them that they're going to need throughout the rest of their life. And I just want to thank the Father's Place for being able to lift me up whenever I thought there was no hope to even have a relationship with my kids. I'm able to spend time with my kids now that I never dreamt I'd ever be able to spend. I'm living a sober life now that I never thought that I'd ever be able to live. And it's through Christ and Him is all I can put it on. Between them and the Father's Place, I'm able to stand here and just happy tears that I'm here today and able to have a nice relationship with my family and my kids. And I really appreciate y'all for letting me share. And thank y'all so much.
Now, if you really want to find out more about this man, you really need to look up and hear more about his story. He's so humble. He has a story that's just unbelievable. Where he used to live is just so much more. Not only do we impact lives of adults as well, but here in Georgetown County, our wonderful school district have allowed our youth program, which is called Reality Check, to be part of every high school in Georgetown County, along with AMI, the youth program for the students who have been expelled from school, but get another opportunity. We get to offer our youth program to our high school students across our county, as well as AMI. And to conclude, we have a short 2-minute video to also show the impact of how we have affected the lives of young people as well. And after the video, if you have any questions.
I really started taking it serious because I realized what I could do with this information. My mentor, the time that he spent with the group, he talks with us about education, cost of living, certain jobs, certain education needed for jobs. And he actually went through some of the stuff that we went through also. And he's trying to guide us in the right way from the mistakes that we've made. It's nice to have that person to confide in. And now I'm taking school a lot more serious so I can get that good education. Because I disappointed myself in the past. I'm gonna bring that up. I really look back on my past and how I acted. Now I actually feel good about doing the right thing, so I know what to do next time. It just changed my outlook. They do also let you participate in some community service. It helps you outreach with some of the people out here in Georgetown too. I have a lot of goals set down now. I want to get a good career, good education, and I want to be known as a good father too, because I want one day to have a wife, have a family. And I want to make sure my kid, I don't want him to live my dream, but I want him to do something that he appreciates and it makes his life play out good too. Within the next years, I want to learn more. Show my parents that I can actually do something. I can contribute. I want to learn more about being a father. I want to actually come back to the Father's Place and see if I can contribute to the youth also. If Father's Place helped me, it can help other people. And maybe I can help with that. And that's a good thing to look on. Good thing to remember that you helped other people too. I know some of y'all don't like the help. Y'all don't think y'all need it. But I promise, all this neglect that you put into life, it's gonna show back. If you get a head start and get in the help you need, I promise you'll look back and say, wow, I did real good on this. Like, I never thought it was possible, but I made a comeback.
Georgetown and 107A Queen, and our headquarters is located in Conway, 1800 Brace Path. And we also have a full-time office in Myrtle Beach. As I mentioned, in the Low Country, we serve North Charleston, we serve Moncks Corner, Berkeley County, and because of a request from our partners, we now have a full-time office in Beaufort as well. So I like to say we serve the alphabets from Allendale County to York County. Fatherhood, Father's Place is impacting lives of fathers and their children. We'd like to thank you for your time on behalf of Wallace Evans Jr., CEO of Father's Place, our board of directors, and our staff. I'd like to thank you for giving us this opportunity to share our story about a Father's Place.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions or comments?
Yes. First
Mr.
and
Cooper?
foremost, Mr. Evans, I want to thank you for 27 years of this being in existence in Father's Place. I noticed there's one thing specifically, one of your motto is more than a broken dad's club.
Yes.
Because many people may have the tendency, it's just something broken, a broken dad club, but it's more than that. I had two questions specifically, but Skipper actually answered one of the questions, and that question was, the first question was, can you tell me about the success story? So I'm grateful that Skipper was able to share the success story. So my second question would be, to Mr. Evans, how do you measure success with this group as a CEO?
How do we measure success? We measure success simply by having fathers such as Skipper be able to show that they, when they come to our door, in many cases, have no relationship with the mother of their child. And so we measure that success one father, one family at a time by what they receive and what they give back into the community. And it comes in so many different buckets, we like to say. It's just the impact economically, for example, in Georgetown County, it was almost $155,000 paid in child support alone. That's responsible fatherhood.
Thank you. And I said I had two questions, but I noticed your time of meeting is on Tuesday at 6:30. You covered 3 different counties. Specifically, I'm asking this for those that may be watching. Do you rotate? Obviously, you're in Georgetown County, then you're in Horry County, then you're in Williamsburg County. This once a month, every Tuesday? How did that work?
Every week, we have weekly peer group sessions, and they're conducted by staff. So we have full-time staff at each site. Myrtle Beach and Georgetown, and Conway are all on Tuesday nights. So we have staff covering those groups as well. And we also are in the detention centers. Failed to mention that. We're in Georgetown Detention Center as well as J. Reuben Long, part of a smart reentry program now in Horry County that's helping to house the incarcerated, formerly incarcerated. We put them in a home in a father's place, help assist those who are parents with employment opportunities, as well as getting back into the lives of their children. So we have staff on a weekly basis. Our peer group sessions are every week.
Also, I noticed you provided the address. Can you provide the phone number for maybe those that are watching?
Yes.
They can call in.
Phone number for a Father's Place is, the area code is 843-488-2923. And that will take you directly into our main office, and you will be directed to any office across the regions that we serve, from our North Charleston office to our Mount Scorner office and to our offices here locally as well. That's 843-488-2923. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Evans, and Skipper, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Is there anything further?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I just have one question really. Reverend Ford,
Yes.
a wonderful program, obviously. I'm just curious, how do you obtain your funding? Tell us about your funding process.
We have diverse funding, thankfully. One of our major funders, we have federal grants from the Department of Social Services. That's one of our larger grants from the federal level. The Francis P. Burnell Foundation has been supporting us since the inception, pretty much. And so, and then we also have individual donors. We have grants from banks and other local businesses. One of our banks, we were acknowledged that we received a community service grant, and that was like a $250,000 grant. And so because of the work that Father's Place has been doing, funders such as Burnell gives us revolving grants because of the work that we're doing. So we have a diverse funding pool that comes from, once again, the terminology, many fishing holes.
So if the public wanted to donate, is there a website or some
Yes.
type of number they can contact to make donations?
Yes, our website is afathersplace.org, afathersplace.org for any donations. That's afathersplace.org.
Thank you, Reverend Ford.
Thank you for those questions.
Thank you, Reverend Ford. Is there anything further? Thank you, sir. Thank you both, and thank you for everything you do for Georgetown and for the entire state of South Carolina.
Thank you. It sounds like you all have some information, but we brought a swag bag for each and every one of you, so we'll leave it and all can receive that.
Thank you, sir. Next, we move on to our Winyah Bay Federal Channel Dredging Report from U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Ms. Sonia Carter, the project manager, will present. Ms. Carter, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Sonia Carter. I'm the project manager for the Georgetown Harbor Dredging Project. So this project has been a long time in the making. And if we'll just go to the next slide, I have a little bit of the history. So Georgetown Harbor was originally founded with the River and Harbors Act in the 1940s. And then its initial construction occurred in the 1950s. And at that time, the Corps dug out the bypass channel, which we call the shortcut, to allow for transit or safer transit, if you will. So the harbor, that's the Sandpit River, bypass channel, and the steel mill channel, have been tracked since the 1920s. And so we have constantly monitored its shoaling rates and things like that. From the 1980s to 2008, on a nearly annual basis, it was dredged. After that, we saw a decline in vessel traffic as well as available funding. So in 2023, Georgetown County was able to acquire some riverfront property and is going through a revitalization of the harbor. And one of the things that they reached out to do was to receive federal funding to have the harbor actually deepened. So the purpose of the project is to restore the harbor to a 12-foot depth. This is so recreational and commercial vessels can get to your historic downtown area, as well as the other properties that are along the harbor. It's navigational safety and, like I said, to maintain that waterfront access. So this is the actual project footprint. So we will be dredging the bypass channel, which is right along Harbor Walk, as everybody knows, and then the steel mill channel that is to the left on that image. Don't talk with my hands. So on the left side, or my left, the red is the base contract, and the additional green, we had a cost savings from the contractor that won the bid. So we are able to award the additional options. So we can go all the way across that channel with this project. So that was one of the things we were really excited about, being able to add the whole footprint that we wanted. So this is the technical slide, and I promise this is the worst of it. At the top there, that is your bypass channel. So currently it's very shallow. We are going to dig down the channel to 12 feet plus 2 foot of over depth. That 2 foot of over depth, we are asking the contractor to get. So hopefully we can get your channel down to 14 feet. And that's going to remove 170,000 cubic yards of material from that channel. And then in the steel mill channel, we are removing 220,000 with the base, and then an additional 170,000 cubic yards with the additional options that we're awarding, for a total of 560,000. And the project timeline, we had a contractor that was working in the Charleston Harbor. So we received some substantial cost savings because of that. So to have them come here was a lot cheaper than we anticipated. Additionally, they have a larger dredge than we were anticipating. So our timeline, we awarded this contract in June. They are ready to move. This slide actually says early July that they're going to start moving equipment, but it will actually be the 26th. So in 3 days, y'all will start seeing pipes come in. Now, these pipes are going to the sandpit placement area where the material is being pumped to, and won't be in the bypass channel until the dredge shows up. So that'll be mid-July timeframe when you actually see dredging begin. Moving on, the bypass channel will be the first that's dredged, and then after that, the steel mill channel will be cleared. And we are expecting this project to end at the end of August, beginning of September. So the contractor is expecting 6 to 8 weeks and they will be out of your harbor and hopefully it'll all be done. Naturally, that is dependent on weather, equipment availability and things like that. So what to expect? The dredge does not stop working. It goes 24/7. So you will hear noise. You will see the equipment. I have spoken with the contractors and they intend to make sure that the channel is passable and it's never fully blocked. And if it is, there will be notices to mariners put out if that happens, but their intent is to not block your channel at any time. One of the other things we wanted to point out was the turbidity. We receive lots of notifications, the water's cloudier, things like that. We are using a cutter hedge dredge. So essentially it just kind of cuts up all the material and sucks it up. So you will see localized temporary turbidity in the water, but that will settle out and is not long-term. So environmental, along with the funding we received, we were able to do a full environmental assessment of the area. It was found that there was no significant impact to the environment by doing this project. And all environmental compliance will be followed as we go through. And the main thing that we want to bring to everybody is boater safety. While this is going on, they will be moving fast through your harbor. We have a very short period of time, but we ask that keep your wake speed down, give them room. Radio communication is large. They will always be on the radio. Just call them. They will adjust if they can. And then, of course, I provided the website for the notice to mariners, and that will keep you up to date exactly where they are. Short and sweet. So if you want to stay in contact, there is our email for our corporate communications office if you have direct questions, as well as our social medias to track the project.
Ms. Carter, I have a few questions if you're ready for some questions.
Of course.
Are you going to be using our 200-acre spoil area up above, north of the bridge upriver? Is
Yes,
that where you're
sir.
going to go with all the spoils?
Yes, sir. We recently cleared that land back in the fall for this upcoming project. So yeah, the sand
Yeah.
pit placement area is the one we're using.
Have you all contacted the Coast Guard at all about marking the channel? You know, behind Front Street there, it's never been done. And now that it's going to really be the channel, I was hoping that maybe the Coast Guard would come in there and put some markers in.
I had a meeting with the Coast Guard yesterday, so they are tracking this project and are going to put the National Channel Framework. So once we're done dredging, we did not directly discuss whether or not we were going to put channel markers in, but that is something I can definitely talk with them about since it is a
You know,
federal
the
channel.
mariners will definitely appreciate it so they can stay in the channel.
Yeah.
One other thing, in talking to your folks, I was really worried about spoils from the engineers that we've had looking at it before. Excuse me, not spoils, but silting. And we've been told by a couple of the firms that have done studies for us that we will be silting back in and need to dredge within 4 to 6 years again. So that recurring money is going to be hard to come by. I know Senator Graham took care of this time, and everybody ought to be thanking him for that. He got us $6.5 million or whatever it was to do it. But I'm worried about down the road, and I understand you're going to have enough money to be looking at that also.
That is correct, because we did have cost savings on this. We have additional funds that we are hoping to put back into the project. So additional research as well as going wider with the channel and things like that to help advance maintenance.
Well, thank you so much for coming and speaking to us tonight.
Of course, my pleasure.
Anyone else?
Yes. I want to piggyback a little bit on what Councilor Anderson made mention. The 6.5 million, which was included in the Energy and Water Development Appropriation Bill in the spring of 2024. So now we're coming up to spring of 2024. It's 2 years later, and my Senator Lancy Lindsey Graham, who served on the Appropriation Committee. So it's been about 2 years now. So where am I going with this? The 6.5 million has been there for 2 years. How are you allocating those $6.5 million?
So the reason this project didn't start immediately is one of the things we had to do was an environmental assessment. So a full environmental assessment takes time. They have to look at the soils. We had geotechnical stuff done to make sure there was nothing chemical, nothing that would harm the area, those sort of things, as well as consultations with Fish and Wildlife, things like that for endangered species. So funding went towards that. And then this project, we have an additional, so this project we have awarded for just under 3.6 million. So we had a substantial savings. The additional funds are going to look into the silting as well as additional dredging. So that's where the funds are currently being allocated.
And also the channels have dropped, it had dropped less than 2 feet of water. At this point, where is the channel? What, are they close to the 12 feet that we're looking for?
The channel varies. It's all the way from 2 feet, and I want to say some of the deepest depths are right at 8 feet. So I don't remember, except for like right at the entrance of the bypass. I think it's a little bit deeper, but I don't know for positive. So it varies throughout the channel, the volume.
And my last question would be, what's the takeaway? What's the takeaway basically with getting the channel where it needs to be, having the funding almost 2 years? So what's the takeaway from your perspective with the project collectively?
So what I get from the project is knowing that we have a growth opportunity in Georgetown. So I know the county itself is looking at revitalizing additional properties that have been acquired, as well as bringing people to the historic Georgetown. So by deepening these, we can bring those in. It also will allow for industrial and commercial use up the Sandpit River, because that area there will be deeper. You'll have barges and things that'll be able to get in easier.
Thank you.
Ms. Carter, I forgot one pertinent question here. I know, when we get finished, the dredging project, we're gonna have some erosion along Front Street there. Have you all thought at all about putting some sheet pilings along that area where the water is gonna have to make that turn and wanna go straight? If I'm being clear, somebody's gonna have to do something about that too. Is that part of what we'll be doing along there?
So I'm not tracking that as part of the project. Usually our maintenance of the channel, if it impacts the federal channel, so if we have erosion and it's falling into the channel, that is something we could possibly look at, but I was not tracking that, so I don't have a direct answer at
But
this
this
time.
is your project, right?
Yes,
Well, I'd sure like to talk to you a little bit about that.
of course.
Thank you.
Anything further?
Just one, Mr. Chairman. You all have assessed this project, have you not?
Say that one more
You,
time.
you all have assessed this project as a ready-to-go project, is that correct?
Yes.
And when will it begin and when will it end?
This project,
Yes, projected to begin and end.
oh, so it will start next week and it will end at the beginning of September.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Have you already briefed the city?
No, we have not. We do have a public meeting on the 30th that the city will be a part of, so they are tracking this.
Thank you.
Ms. Carter, back when you guys held the public meeting out Howard Auditorium, I think it's been a year or two ago, there was some discussion then about closing that shortcut off and bringing Goat Island back to the mainland. Did you guys just decide that was not something that you needed to do, or you want to leave that shortcut open for any specific reason? Or
So I've heard rumors of that. Unfortunately, I received this project about a year ago. Is that the longer I've been on it? So I wasn't part of that discussion. And those are some of the things that, hopefully once we get this project done, we can start looking into those other things since we have additional funding.
thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
Anything further? All right. Thank you,
Thank
Ms.
you.
Carter. We appreciate it. Move down to a public comment section. A public comment period is included on our each meeting agenda and shall be limited to 30 minutes. Each speaker will be limited to up to 3 minutes, and no speaker may yield his or her allotted time to another speaker. Timer is provided on the screen, and at the end of your time, please wrap up your comments promptly. While speaking, please be sure to address council only and refrain from personal attacks. Council will not respond to any questions during this period. While the speaker has the floor, the public will respect the speaker and allow them their time to address council. Members of the public who wish to address council during the public input period should sign up with the clerk to council before the meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers for tonight's meeting?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have 16 speakers signed up, so we are going to give each speaker 2 minutes. And our first speaker is Madison Cooper.
Well, thank you, Council. Good to see you. I'm Madison Cooper with the Coastal Carolinas Association of Realtors, Georgetown native and resident. First of all, as always, want to thank staff. We've made a lot of progress on this for the last 9 months. We've been actively working on a draft. I would say, as we've come into the final weeks here, there are additional concerns that have come out, not only from the State House delegation, but from engineers and others that are on the ground. For that reason, we would ask that you defer this for to the next additional meeting, not in long-term deferral, but just time for some final things to be ironed out. One big concern that we have that there's a lot of numbers that have been thrown around. I really do wish that the county had taken time to study the sites affected and identify them on a map. We're afraid that the owners just do not know and that there's going to be unintended consequences once this passes because people are not paying attention, as you know. Again, additional questions from the delegation that have come out within the last week. We thank you for the amendments that have come forward even since second reading. Significant positive changes there, but just ask for a little bit of additional time. Thank you.
Richard Goldberg.
Thank you. My name is Richard Goldberg, and I have a small farm over on Pawleys Island. It's on the mainland side behind the Islander Bar. I'm sure everyone in here knows where that is. I bought that farm in late 90s, started actually carved it out of 13 acres. Small farm. I grow okra. Had at one time 100 chickens. Chickens drove me crazy, so I got out of that. But I did have some wetlands, isolated wetlands on the property. I took the time and expense to have them delineated. Had a letter in effect. I eventually let that expire as things sort of changed on a federal and state scale. And I discussed that with the engineers that did my original delineation. But it did cost me a lot of money to do that. And I started thinking a little bit late to this party. Someone called me this afternoon and told me what's going on. So I gotta go address this, what I think is going on. You have hundreds of small farms over the county here. I've got 13 acres, but there are a lot of smaller farms and medium-sized farms, bigger than mine. And I really haven't gotten into the detail, and I'll have to go back and find out what the facts are about what the cost of that is going to be. These little small farms throughout the county. And I've already had one delineation paid for a letter. I called about 4 or 5 years ago and talked to the engineers and asked them if I needed to, get that reinstated. And they told me, don't waste the money. And so that's why I'm here today, thinking about all the it's not really gonna make or break me. I don't earn a lot of money on that. My wife does 99% of the work. I'm there to make her coffee when she gets up at 4 o'clock in the morning to pick okra. I had to pick it today. She had some surgery yesterday. I don't like farming. I hate farming. But I do, want to tell you, I do earn some money on that farm. And the amount of money, I'll tell you exactly what it is. It pays my county taxes. That little bit of okra we grow and the other things. And so I just want you to keep that in mind, you know, what the regulatory side of that will be. Not on me, but on the other property owners, you know, especially the farmers. I know the developers are, you know, jumping up and down. I'm a private property man. I
Can you wrap it
understand.
up, Mr. Goldberg, please, sir?
Yeah, but it's, you know, I'm not gonna develop my farm. In fact, if I can ever get Wendell Powers to come back out of retirement, he's agreed to survey me a small cemetery. And I wanna stay there forever. So, anyway, I just wanna bring that up and just think about those small black and white farms. Big and large farmers have to deal with this, but this can be considerable expense for somebody. Thank you.
Myra Vranta.
In 1972, the Clean Water Act was enacted to help stop the pollution that was being dumped into the U.S. water systems. We had some of that here from the mills, that type thing. Very good thing. In 1977, Jimmy Carter issued an executive order to have federal agencies minimize the destruction, loss, or degradation of wetlands. In 1986, Emergency Wetlands Resources Act created a funding source to help the federal government and states acquire, pay for protected wetlands. In 1989, North American Wetlands Conservation Act was enacted to conserve North American wetlands, ecosystems, and waterfowl that depended on the wetlands. So here we are in 2026. And Georgetown County is attempting to take land from its citizens with no compensation. When personal property is needed for road expansion or for space for a park or land for a library, it's seized under eminent domain and the owner is paid a fair market value for the land. But with the proposal we have here now, it's more or less a land seizure with no compensation. It can make a property unusable and unsellable. Sure, you may still own the property, but in many instances, this ordinance would render the property unusable and possibly unsellable too. This doesn't seem fair or possible or even legal. And you must still pay the taxes even on the unusable part. Wetlands are all over Georgetown County. A farmer could lose the use of valuable farmland if this ordinance is passed. A homeowner might not be able to put an addition onto his house if a wetlands were close. You might not be able to put even a jungle gym in your yard for your children or grandchildren if there are wetlands too nearby. Personal story. The Hagley Estates lots were auctioned in 1965. I went with my dad to the auction where he bought property. When he left the auction, he went to SEN Bank on Front Street to see if he could get a loan. He did. And over the years, he always made his payments. Even with 6 kids and a wife to support, he made sure that the land was paid for. 7 years ago, a few weeks before my father died, he asked me to add up how much I thought he was worth. He wanted the assurance that he was leaving my mom well provided for. The Hagley property that he had purchased was a good-sized part of that assurance. Now my mother has dementia and requires care in a memory facility. As a family, we knew that if there was a need for more money for mom's care, we could sell the property and continue to provide our mother with the care she needs. That assurance goes away if this ordinance is passed. I have no doubt that many, many other families in Georgetown County have similar experiences of purchasing land as a bedrock foundation for their family's future. Land should appreciate in value and will hopefully secure the future of that family's long-term success. My family and I respectfully request that this ordinance not be passed. Thank you.
Jean Baker.
Thank you. My name is Gene Baker, and I'm part of that family. But just a few things that I would like to say on the wetlands ordinance. It just seems that, if, from what I understand, that from the National Wildlife Wetlands Inventory, that this is going to take over 30,000 acres away from the citizens of Georgetown County. No compensation. I don't see how that can be done. It would like my sister said, that some of the property will be unusual. It caused the increases of houses and homes throughout the county. And to my knowledge, there is not a state or a federal requirement for this. So I think if the council would like to do something for their citizens of Georgetown County, vote no and don't take this land away from them. Thank you.
Pam Martin.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, representatives, for allowing me to speak today. My name is Pamela Martin. I'm a professor of political science and sustainability and coastal resilience, and I direct a Center for Resilience, Innovation, and Sustainability through Education. I also sit on the State Advisory Committee for the Office of Resilience, and I just completed a Robert Wood Johnson Foundation grant on insurance, public health, and resilience with the State Department of Insurance and the Office of Resilience. Wetlands aren't just scenery. Their infrastructure. Research reported and published in Nature shows, the journal Nature, shows coastal wetlands reduce property damage during storms by roughly 11% on average, and nearby properties see about 16% lower annual flood losses. For a coastal and riverine system like ours in Georgetown County, a 10 to 30% reduction in flood damages is a realistic planning estimate, and in high-risk zones, it can exceed 50%. This matters financially to our county and to our citizens. And I am a property owner here in Georgetown County of multiple properties, and wetlands would be impacted. Communities can reduce flood insurance premiums by up to 45% through mitigation like wetland protection. Wetlands are already named in our beach management plan, and our community rating system rating of 7 means there's real room to improve in our county. Georgetown's $1,257 average premium is the highest in South Carolina. And our 4,000 National Flood Insurance Program policyholders are facing a projected 113% incremental increase of about 18% or so a year through 2037. Hurricane Florence alone cost us $600 million in damages statewide. The Waccamaw hit record flooding. Over 8,000 households were evacuated. I support private property rights. That's exactly why I support this ordinance. Protecting wetlands protects homeowners, protects our tax base, and keeps new development from creating tomorrow's flood victims. I urge you to support this ordinance, and thank you for your time.
Harry Oxner.
Good evening. I'm here to represent a property owner out on 17 near the airport where there's 333 acres being impacted. Most of the discussion I've seen in the papers and elsewhere is worried about the cost of what it would cost to do a wetland delineation. That is certainly not the limited amount of cost that is going to occur to all the property owners, especially all those west of 17. The lady who just spoke, most of those impacts she's talking about are all on the beach or around the creeks. All the folks that are out west of Georgetown are impacted. They don't have any running water. They don't have any what I'd call true wetlands. It's something different with the Corps. The Corps takes care of it in their own way, and they look at fauna, they look at all the other different things to determine whether or not it's a wetland or a non-jurisdictional wetland. All that's covered. The county doesn't need to go any further than that. The real cost, and the other issue is on this piece of property I'm talking about, in most property in Georgetown County, because of how it's developed in the old days of when the ocean was there, they're doing this, and it's long linear wetlands. So when you take a 25-foot buffer, it impacts a lot of land, a lot of acreage. In this piece of property I'm talking about, it would probably be 35 to 40 acres impacted that would be taken away from development that were developable before. Well, that piece of property had a $65,000 an acre contract on it. Unfortunately, it just went away because it was a data processing center and they couldn't get the electricity. That's about a $2 million impact of that piece of property. Well, think about all the poor folks that are in Chopee in Plantersville that have 25 acres, 10 acres, 30 acres. They've never had their property delineated, don't have a chance to have it delineated. That's going to affect all those people. I understand that y'all are trying to protect the folks on, in the properties on the beach, but the impact that hadn't been considered here is west of Georgetown. Last thing I would say is I've spoken to the county attorney, asked him whether anyone's talked to him about takings and whether or not county council has asked for a memorandum on the law on that. He says he has not heard anything. I think the county council ought to, at the minimum, be advised of whether or not all these, or this ordinance is going to be a taking to a lot of properties, especially on the west side of Georgetown. Thank you.
Art Baker.
Thank you, council. Appreciate the opportunity for me to come and share. I come as a citizen, although I'm an engineer with a master's in environmental engineering. I'd like to address you as a private citizen. That's this wetlands ordinance will seriously impact us and our family, my brothers, my sisters. Three things I want to share with you. Number one, we're entering into almost 250 years for our sesquicentennial, 250 years of freedom, 250 years of rights. And the bedrock of that, one of the bedrocks is property rights. Socialism, communism, the first thing they go after is people's property. This is what this project is, taking people's property. And why do I say it's a take? In the ordinance, you have a buffer and then you have a setback. You're doing a setback from a future property line. So what's beyond that you're taking is a take. No question about it. It's a take. It's estimated that over 30,000 acres will be taken, composing over $500 million in seizure of personal property. Where are the property rights? You're our last line of defense, council. You're entrusted to take care of your citizens. And we ask that you not approve this. My father's property is given to us. He fought. He was in Japan. He was in Korea. He bought this for our family. And yet our county council is trying to seize the property that he fought for and that he's given to his children. Second thing is, how much is enough? There's already been federal wetlands acquisitions. You've already reduced densities. You've already increased stormwater requirements for detention and water quality. You've already increased tree requirements and tree protections. There's no engineering basis, despite what you hear, for a 25-foot buffer. None at all. The last thing is, how much is enough? It's never enough. Environmentalists will never be satisfied. It's easy to be an activist when it costs you nothing. The goal is to stop development, to impose their will on us by taking property. If the property is so valuable, do what others do. Buy it legally. Don't seize it. Council, we entrust you with the powers that no one else has. And we ask you to protect the citizens in this county from unlawful seizure. We thank you for your time.
Victoria C. Okay. Angela O. Okay. Mr. Dwayne Draper.
I'm Dwayne Draper, and I'm here speaking tonight again in my capacity as a South Carolina Master Naturalist and Chair of Inlet and Bay Stewards, a Friends Group to the North Inlet Winyah Bay National Estuarine Research Reserve. I spoke at last month's council meeting supporting the Wetlands Protection Ordinance at second reading. Since then, there have been more reductions to the wetlands buffers, and it seems to me that this is now beyond a reasonable expectation to compromise. 3 years ago, the initial document prepared for consideration called for much more robust buffers. As of tonight's third reading, various buffer areas have been reduced by 50 to 75%. Review by the various stakeholders and collaboration to reach consensus is a valid exercise, but these drastic reductions are a bit of overreach. The gutting of this wetlands protection ordinance reminds me of the process in approving the natural resources element of the comp plan a few years ago. There have been many revisions to this document in recent months, with much collaboration and compromise. Various workshops have been held between the Planning Commission and the Council. There is widespread support for this wetlands ordinance from the scientific community, starting with our local scientists and researchers, all the way up to state agencies like Department of Environmental Services, Department of Natural Resources, and the Office of Resilience. The Planning Department is advocating for it. We must be good stewards for our natural resources. We need to think about living in harmony with nature. It's a reciprocal relationship. Think of wetlands as a life support system, not as a hindrance to development. While I'm not completely supportive of the recent reductions in the wetlands buffer, in second reading, I would urge the council to pass this, get it across the finish line and in the books. Thank you.
Cindy A.
Hello, my name is Cindy Albach. I was a consulting plant ecologist, especially in wetlands, for the past 52 years. The Winyah Bay and the Santee Delta watersheds are very special areas. That's the heart of and the history of Georgetown County. These wetlands that we have are special to us. All of the Yawkey Center and Brookline and Huntington Beach State Park, et cetera, they're not under threat because they're already protected, but the remaining wetland areas are not protected. Your ordinance will do so. But a peer-reviewed study by the Environmental Defense Fund, in just my sub-watershed alone in District 3, showed that over hundreds of thousands of dollars could have been saved in residential flood damages over a 40-year period if wetlands had not been lost. So for those of you who've been flooded out, I want you to think about what this wetlands ordinance is doing for us. Think about the 1,000-year flood in 2015. Many people were killed and $1.5 billion in damages were incurred. Georgetown was not spared, but it was spared to a certain extent due to the National Wildlife Refuge, the Waccamaw, held a lot of that water and released it much more slowly than if that wildlife refuge had not been there. And but let's not forget the isolated freshwater wetlands that have just been discussed, such as those in pine forests and the small streams that coalesce into larger streams and flow into the rivers. These wetlands provide essential services like retaining and storing water, as well as filtering silt, sediment, and contaminants before they get into our water supply. Their cumulative impact is great. Protecting wetlands is about saving human lives, preventing property damage, and preserving the culture of Georgetown County. While I wish the buffer requirements had not been reduced for this third reading, I thank you for taking this step, and I ask you to pass the Wetland Protection Ordinance. Thank you.
Monica Whalen.
Hi, my name is Monica Whalen, and I'm a resident of Georgetown County and a staff attorney at the South Carolina Environmental Law Project. I'm here to speak in support of the Wetlands Protection Ordinance. I urge the council to approve this ordinance with the buffers that were originally proposed. At the last meeting at second reading, Ms. Richardson explained that the 50 feet of protection is informed by science. And I wanted to share that the town of Bluffton adopted a wetlands protection ordinance with a 50-foot undisturbed buffer, and the town of Ondaw adopted a wetlands protection ordinance with a 75-foot buffer and a 15-foot setback. And I understand that these jurisdictions are smaller than Georgetown County, but the county's ordinance does contain a number of exemptions, including an agricultural exemption and an exemption for plots of record. And these exemptions address many of the concerns that have been raised previously. Also, a buffer is not a taking. When you think about setbacks from roads or from your neighbor's home, people don't think anything of it because they understand that these setbacks are needed for safety reasons or to protect quality life. And the same applies to these buffers and protecting wetlands and avoiding development in the wetlands. Lastly, I wanted to note that I'm wearing this sticker that you may have recognized other people wearing. It's a sticker that the Coastal Conservation League made that says that wetlands protect us. Let's protect wetlands. And I want to ask people in the audience who are here to protect wetlands to raise their hand and show the county that they're here to support this ordinance. Thank you. That's all.
Sierra Cassidy.
Hello. Members of council, thank you for the opportunity to speak today. I'm here today because Georgetown County is at a turning point. Our wetlands are disappearing fast across the southeastern United States, and they are some of our most valuable natural assets, and in Georgetown we have a plethora of them. Enacting this wetland protection ordinance is not just an environmental choice, it is a practical, economic, and community-focused decision that will protect this county for generations. As a coastal community that is prone to flooding, we know how quickly stormwater can overwhelm neighborhoods, roads, and drainage systems. Every acre of wetland can store up to millions of gallons of floodwater. And when we lose those wetlands, we lose our free natural infrastructure, and taxpayers end up paying the price for that costly drainage upgrades, road repairs, and emergency response operations. Wetlands also filter pollutants before they reach our rivers, bays, and watersheds. This is where we get our drinking water from, and it's vital for our human health to keep these waters clean, and wetlands do just that for free. This ordinance is not about stopping growth, but guiding growth responsibly. Many people have mentioned that this ordinance would restrict a lot of their personal freedoms, but the ordinance has a plethora of exemptions that Monica mentioned, and the regulations may feel constricting to some, but they allow us freedom from extreme flooding, freedom from unsafe drinking water, freedom from a future of trying to fix all the problems that would be created if we allowed our wetlands to be built and filled in. It's a 25-foot sacrifice for a safer future for ourselves, our families, neighbors, and the future generations that will be here in Georgetown County. We should protect what God has given us for free. So I urge you, council members, to please move forward with this ordinance. Thank you.
Rob Rawl.
Good evening, council members. My name's Rob Rawl. I live in Murrells Inlet. I'm not going to waste our time here today espousing on the importance and value of the wetlands. Everyone here, I think, realizes that. You all have attended workshop after workshop after workshop, heard from scientists, engineers. Everyone knows how important wetlands are to Georgetown County. I would just add this, that not only are they important for the reasons that we're all kind of listening to today, but it's also the heritage of Georgetown County. We don't have skyscrapers. We don't have racetracks. We don't have ballparks. We've got our rivers. We've got our wetlands. We've got our beaches. And that's the heritage that the people for centuries and eons that have lived before in Georgetown County have given to us. I think we have a responsibility to protect them. The question's not whether or not they need protecting, but how do we do this in an efficient and important way? And the question is not whether or not the public, the citizens of Georgetown County need protecting. They do. The developers, the property owners. I would suggest to you that based upon all the exceptions that have been built in through your hard work, that this does not represent some radical environmentalist dream ordinance. This is a very properly gauged ordinance to do a maximum protection for the ordinance with, importantly, keeping as much interest and protecting as much interest of the property owners and the developers as possible. It's like having our cake and eating it too. And I would submit to the council, I would just ask the question, who doesn't like cake? Thank you.
Tracy Jones.
Good evening, council. My name's Tracy Jones. I never thought I'd be here on this side of the table. I was your stormwater manager for over 14 years, and I really took pride in that position. And I'm here today just to offer my experience from being your stormwater manager. I got to know many people in this community that flooded from storm events and hurricanes that are mentioned in the wetland protection ordinance. And that's kind of what I wanted. I feel like there's some misconception. I was here in 2016 when Hurricane Matthew came through, all the way through Hurricane Ian in 2022. And those wetlands fill up first. But there are stormwater regulations at the state level that I was a part of to help develop, and at the county level, so the county has to adopt them too. And I also wrote the county stormwater ordinance that do offer protection for wetlands. And that's why I'm here today. I just wanted to share that experience, that there are protections in place, and that I'm with Ms. Cooper. I thought if you could take another quick peek at that and see where the balance is. I know Holly and her team have worked really hard to get to this point. We should absolutely protect wetlands. And we're not talking about filling wetlands. We're just talking about protecting them. In fact, I helped build the constructed wetland on the south end of Murrells Inlet. Wetlands are important, and there's a happy balance between that. And I believe that your state and county regulations for stormwater offered some protection that you could consider. Thank you.
Joe Temple.
Yes, I'm Joe Temple. I live in Murrells Inlet in Georgetown County. I spent 30 years of my life working for a state Department of Transportation as a planner, and it was a lot of my job was to prepare environmental assessments. I spent a lot of time avoiding or first identifying wetlands, avoiding them, minimizing impacts on them, or enhancing the wetlands. I'm here in support of the wetlands ordinance before you tonight. I think it's a common sense measure to protect wetlands and to encourage development to occur in the smarter locations. I think we can both be a good steward of our environment and also accommodate responsible growth. Thank you.
Amy Armstrong.
Thank you, Chairman Elliott and members of County Council. My name is Amy Armstrong. I am a resident and property owner here in Georgetown County, and I do have a wetland that's contiguous with the Waccamaw River in my backyard. I want to address a few points. I think importantly, it's to note that wetlands have been regulated for over 50 years under the Clean Water Act. This is not something new, but however, the U.S. Supreme Court has consistently pulled back its jurisdictional authority over wetlands, leaving a lot of them unprotected, which is why U.S. Supreme Court decisions have said it's the state and local government's responsibility to regulate and manage and protect wetlands. And that's exactly why you all heard from the DNR, the Office of Resilience, and the Department of Environmental Services that they are very much in favor and in support of this wetlands ordinance. That Georgetown County is doing something really that echoes what Councilman Cooper spoke to us in his prayer about doing what is just and right, about serving with integrity, and having the courage to make the difficult decisions about what's best for our citizens. And I think on the takings point, I have litigated takings cases in South Carolina. I'm involved in one right now as an attorney in Beaufort County, and I've been called in as an expert witness to speak on takings issues, most recently by the South Carolina Beach Advocates. And this wetland ordinance and buffers are in no means even close to getting to what would be considered a taking. We have setback requirements in Georgetown County. Monica mentioned them already. We have side yard setbacks, we have front yard setbacks, and we have a 90-foot setback on Highway 17. None of that is takings, neither is this wetland ordinance. And I ask that you pass the ordinance. Thank you.
That was our final speaker.
Thank you. On behalf of council, I want to thank you all for your thoughtful and heartfelt commentary. We move down to the consent agenda. We have 7 items on the consent agenda that have previously been approved via the agenda approval process. Procurement number 26-038, gymnasium acoustic improvement. Staff recommends awarding the contract to Contract Building Systems LLC as the lowest responsive and responsible builder. Funding for these services included within the department's approved improvements budget. We also have a procurement number 26-045, Midway Fire Life Pack 35, Midway Fire Chief McClellan and ACA Brandon Ellis recommend the replacement of the 3 current cardiac monitors that are no longer available for maintenance contract coverage for a total amount inclusive of sales tax of $156,787.09. Procurement number 26-047, Fraser Ambulance for Midway Fire Rescue. Midway Fire Chief Brent McClellan and ACA Brandon Ellis recommend approval of the proposed 2026 Ford F-450 Fraser-built ambulance for a total amount of $485,046.10. Procurement number 26052, lease and purchase of 800 megahertz public safety radio. Sheriff Weaver and ACA Brandon Ellis recommend approval of the proposed lease purchase agreement for the acquisition of 714 new 800 megahertz public safety radios through the South Carolina State contract with Motorola Solutions for a total of $7,247,817.03. RFQU 26-030, Marine Engineering Consulting Services, IDIQ. Staff recommends awarding RFQU 26-030, Marine Engineer Consulting Services, IDIQ, to the following 2 firms, Thomas & Hutton Engineering Company and GEL Engineering LLC. The Waccamaw Workforce Area SC Works System Memorandum of Understanding, the attached MOU IFA template was developed and approved by the South Carolina Department of Employment and Workforce in accordance with the federal regulations and are required to coordinate the operation of the regional workforce delivery system. 6G is FY 27 county holiday schedule. Staff recommends that council approve the proposed FY 27 county holiday schedule for the inclusion in the county's annual calendar year. Move down to resolutions and proclamations. Resolution number 2617, approving and authorizing the disposal of real and non-real property and appurtenances and to carry out all necessary acts and matters relating thereto. We have a report from County Administrator, Ms. Angela Christian. Ms. Christian, you have the floor.
Thank you. Good evening. We're asking for your approval to put 7 parcels and 3 dozers on the surplus list. At some point in the future, we may or we will dispose of these properties. We're asking your permission to put these things on the surplus list.
Thank you, Ms. Christian. Are there any questions for Ms. Christian on Resolution 2617?
I have a question.
Councilor Anderson?
I've asked about this before. The detention center, the sheriff's gonna have his own shooting range in that area. And I'm concerned about us liquidating the one that he has been using now and the public's been using. I hope it's not on this list.
It is not.
Okay, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor. Is there any further questions from Ms. Christian?
Just a general statement that this is an offset there was a lot of discussion over the U.S. Customs purchase. And as promised, this is an offset to begin removing some of the assets that we have to pay for that purchase.
Thank you, Councilor Mercado. Any further questions for Ms. Christian? Hearing none, the chair will call for a motion on Resolution 2617, approving and authorizing the disposal of real and non-real property and appurtenances and to carry out unnecessary acts and matters relating thereto. Is there a motion on the floor?
Mr. Chairman.
Councilor Morant.
Yes, prior to us making a motion a motion for approval of this particular resolution and proclamation, I ask that it be amended in some respect that the parties who are directed to report back that the parties who are directed to take such action make recommendations to council instead of them carrying out the entire act, because the way the ordinance is written, it's as though those particular persons can make all the final decisions regarding the surplus properties and the disposition of them without council's intervention, I guess, without council's knowledge. So I think we need to amend this ordinance in some respect that the parties would be making recommendations to council for the disposition of those surplus properties instead of the individuals just carrying it out directly themselves without council's knowledge. So I ask that the resolution be amended to add a provision which basically states that necessary and proper on behalf of the county to make recommendations for disposals, to make recommendations to council for disposal of any property as may be enumerated. So I move that the resolution be amended to that effect.
I'll second the motion.
Is there any discussion? I believe it's state law that even though we put it on the list before it's disposed of, it has to come back to a council for approval, correct?
That is correct. And it is also in our purchasing ordinance that it has to come back to council for as a recommendation to y'all before we can dispose of.
I think it still needs to be in the resolution though. It's not in the resolution, so we should have followed the resolution. If that's a state requirement, then we should have included it within our resolution to make sure we comply with state requirements. So I still actually be placed in the resolution.
Would you be okay if we added to comply with state in our own purchasing ordinance?
I mean, we just changed
Already
it.
written.
We just changed the 3 words and that's all we changed it. I don't see a big deal with it, really. I really don't. I don't see a big deal with just adding, to make recommendations to council for disposition of the property.
That's what we do. If you will read it clearly so we can make sure we have it recorded as she stated.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. You want Councilman Morant to repeat it?
Yes, please.
Yes, and the paragraph is basically necessary and proper on behalf of the county to make recommendations to county council for disposition of any property as may be enumerated, et cetera, et cetera.
Yes,
Yeah.
we have. Yes,
Okay.
sir.
All right, we've got a motion to amend and a second. Is there any further discussion? We'll vote on the motion to amend first. All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Motion's amended. Move back to the original motion. Is there a motion to approve the amendment at the resolution as amended? So moved by Counselor Mercado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Cooper. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Resolution passes as amended. Move down to public hearings. Ordinance 2612, order authorizing the issuance and sale of not exceeding $28 million general obligation bonds in one or more years and one or more series with appropriate series designations, and the issuance of general obligation bond anticipation notes in one or more years in one or more series with appropriate series designations by Georgetown County, South Carolina, providing for the form of the bonds and notes, fixing certain details of the bonds and notes, authorizing the county administrator or her lawfully authorized designee to determine certain matters relating to the bonds and notes, providing for the payment of the bonds and notes and the disposition of the proceeds thereof, and other matters relating thereto. The chair will now open the floor for public comment on ordinance 2612. Hearing no comments, the public hearing is now closed. We move to ordinance 2614, an ordinance to make appropriations for ordinary county purposes to Georgetown County for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027 to provide for the expenditure thereof, to provide for revenues for the payment thereof, as well as adjustments to various fee schedules and millage. The chair opens the floor for public comment on ordinance 2614. Hearing no comments, the public hearing is now closed. Move down to third reading of ordinances. We have ordinance 26-12, authorizing the issuance and sale of not exceeding $28 million general obligation bonds in one or more years and one or more series with appropriate series designations, and the issuance of general obligation and bond anticipation notes in one or more years and one or more series with appropriate series designations by Georgetown County, South Carolina, providing for the form of the bonds and notes, fixing certain details of the bonds and notes, authorizing the county administrator or her lawfully authorized designee to determine certain matters relating to the bonds and the notes, providing for the payment of the bonds and the notes and the disposition of the proceeds thereof, and other matters relating thereto. We have a report from Ms. Angela Christian, our county administrator. Ms. Christian, you have the floor.
Yes, sir. There have been no changes to the original ordinance that was presented to you. It stands ready to go forward and be approved, please.
All right. Are there any questions for Ms. Christian? Here, no, chair will entertain a motion to incorporate the amended text. Did we amend that text? Yeah, we amended it for the 28 million, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that did change. So we have to the chair will call for a motion to incorporate the amended text. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
So moved by Counselor Anderson. There's a second.
Second.
Second by Counselor Cooper. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? The motion to incorporate the amended text passes. Now we move back to the motion to approve the ordinance as amended. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
So moved by Counselor Anderson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Newton. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Ordinance passes. Ordinance 2614, an ordinance to make appropriations for ordinary county purposes for Georgetown County for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027 to provide for the expenditures thereof, to provide for revenues for the payment thereof, as well as adjustments to various fee schedules and millages. We have a report from Ms. Megan Colgrove, our finance director. Ms. Colgrove, you have the floor.
Good evening. Ordinance 2614 represents the fiscal year 2026-27 budget ordinance. There have been no changes. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Otherwise, staff requests that you give third reading approval to ordinance 2614.
Thank you, Ms. Colgrove. Are there any questions for Ms. Colgrove on ordinance 2614? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion on ordinance 2614, an ordinance to make appropriations for Ordinance County purposes for Georgetown County for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026, and ending June 30th, 2027, to provide for the expenditures thereof, to provide for revenues for the payment thereof, as well as the adjustments to various fee schedules and millage. Is there a motion on the floor? So moved by Councilor Mercado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Cooper. Is there any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I've got a few thoughts on this, and it's not going to surprise you that what I got to say. I began to take a close look at our county budget after Karis and Walt left our county government. Two things bothered me, namely budgets being revised without an explanation to council, and more importantly, that the unrestricted fund balance of the general fund is 40% of the total budget to take care of expenditures incurred by natural disasters. This is in addition to another fund, which is restricted from natural disasters and contains $1.5 million. In 2024, we ratified an ordinance solely to approve the 40% fund balance. This happened before I began my root canal on how public accounting differs from that used in the private sector. About at least 2 months later, it occurred to me that I should ask the administrator how she arrived at the 40% number. She explained to me that the number was used in an area of North Carolina where she came from. I was surprised at the answer. Since I was not satisfied with her response, I decided to request a study to be done to determine what the percentage should be for Georgetown County using local historic data. First, it was my understanding the North Carolina percentage was determined using a major hurricane as a baseline. It has been since 1989 that a major hurricane, Hugo, hit our county. Because it has been 37 years since a major hurricane, I decided an average storm should be used as a baseline. I picked Hurricane Florence, which I believe is average, and occurred the summer of 2018, or 8 years ago. Second, I would have asked Brandon Ellis, our emergency operations manager, to determine and identify on a map which areas of the county would have had infrastructure totally destroyed or be rebuilt within 4 years, and which areas the county would have infrastructure intensely damaged and be in a repair state for approximately 2 years. These two categories of dwellings would immediately go back to be taxed as unimproved property for 4 years and 2 years respectively. Third, I would ask Tim Holt, our county assessor, to use Ellis's maps to determine the TMS number and appraised value of each 4% permanent residence and each 6% second residence in each damaged category, and each commercial property located in each of the two damaged categories. Fourth, I would ask Ken Baker, our auditor, to take Holt's data and determine the value of each property before and after the storm. The difference would tell us how much we would lose in property taxes during the first 2 years, how much we would lose during the second 2 years, and the total loss of property taxes that we would incur before we could return to taxing at the new appraised value. The total loss of this exercise is the number that we should use to calculate the unrestricted fund balance for an average named storm impacting Georgetown County. The number may be more than 40%, but it will be determined using county data. I requested that this calculation be done by our staff and officials, but what I requested did not happen. What I received to my request was a very well-written 4-page memorandum, which some of you probably read, that explains a lot of things that I already knew, and a summary telling me that the fund balance should be 40%. I have voted yes 9 times in operating budgets during my time on council. Tonight, I will vote no on this operating budget in my 10th year on council. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. Or any further discussion? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion on ordinance 2614, an ordinance to make appropriations for ordinary county purposes for Georgetown County for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026 and ending June 30th, 2027, to provide for the expenditure thereof, to provide for revenues for the payment thereof, as well as adjustments to various fee schedules and millage. Is there a motion on the floor?
So moved.
So moved by Councilor Newton. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Cooper. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. 6. All opposed? 1. Councilor Anderson opposes. The ordinance passes 6-1. Councilor Anderson voted against. Move down to ordinance 2616, an ordinance to amend Article 8, Section 809, and Article 7, Section 1206 of the Georgetown County zoning ordinance, and to create a new Article 24 entitled Wetlands Protection Ordinance, or the WPO. We have a report from Ms. Holly Richardson, our Director of Building and Zoning. Ms. Richardson, you have the floor.
Mr. Chairman, sorry, Ms. Richardson. In an effort to try to save some time, and we all have looked at the proposals from our able planning director. Really, from everything we've heard here this evening, I'm really making a motion to defer this particular ordinance. You know, there's a variety of changes which have been made since this ordinance first came about, a proposal first came about. Even down to the last minute, there have been changes being made, and I think our public need to be better informed than what we're doing with the public. You know, we're trying to find out what is this setback actually based on, and you're making it, you're not making it inclusive per se. You're talking about a 15 feet plus a 25 feet buffer, which calculates to 40 feet, and before we were talking 50 feet. So it seems like the numbers are changing in accordance with what we are negotiating with it. And what's the realistic number where it should be? And from looking at the ordinance, proposed ordinance, it seems to be talking about getting affidavit from homeowners who can verify whether they have wetland on their particular property, and I couldn't tell whether it is or not. So are we jeopardizing them by signing an affidavit? Obviously, if someone comes out there and says, well, you say you don't have it, now you do have it, is that perjury that the person has just committed? So there should be some clarification on this particular ordinance. You know, it should look at the realization for the setback that's being proposed. And there's some other things there. You're talking about the responsibility that's being placed on the landowner. You're looking at the cost. You have the Corps of Engineers. You have the state requirements that's going to be costly for the average residents of Georgetown County. So I think this ordinance needs a little more work. You know, I'm not saying we don't need it. And the people who came up to speak, almost like they're saying, well, we tried to kill our wetlands. We're trying to destroy our wetlands per se. I don't think that is the claim here. I don't think that is the rationale behind it. I think we want to protect our wetlands in some respect, but we want to protect our property owners and our citizens also. And I think there may be a medium ground that we can probably reach just by having this ordinance deferred to do a little more work on it. And we're not talking about a whole long period of time. It's almost like this ordinance just popped up. All of a sudden, we need to have this ordinance right now. And all the time that has been passed with my time being on council, it hadn't come up. The wetlands are already there. So how is it that it has become such a dire effect at this particular point that we cannot defer it for more discussion to make sure that it complies with what our residents want and what would be necessary to actually protect our wetlands? I think this ordinance needs to be deferred. I make a motion, Mr. Chairman, for this ordinance to be deferred, so that we can do more work, that we can find a compatible medium there to support our residents and to protect the wetlands that we have here. So I make a motion that this ordinance be deferred at this particular time.
A second motion.
We have a motion to defer and a second. Is there any discussion?
Yes, I'm going to ask Ms. Holly a question. How many times have we had public meetings in this room and elsewhere on this subject?
We have had between Planning Commission and County Council 4 workshops.
Okay.
Planning Commission had a public hearing back in April on the issue as well. And then, of course, this council has voted on it twice.
Right.
First
So,
and second
so
reading.
that's 6 times that we've gotten the public involved. Miss Jackie back there, have we had anything in our correspondence with the people of Georgetown County regarding this wetlands in any of the information that you put out? Okay, I got
There
about half of that. So I'm sorry. I
has been
shouldn't have-
no press release.
We did do, I think, a specific Facebook post about the wetlands ordinance itself. We
Okay.
advertised the public hearing that the planning commission held as is required by our ordinance.
So I guess my question to you, Councilman Morant, is what's another, what else do we need to cover that we haven't covered with the public with this particular ordinance?
Well, really what we have, we need to clean the ordinance up in some respect, as I stated earlier. Because what we have here, we are putting responsibility on the property owners and we're costing them, we're adding cost to their protection of their own property. We can't be putting them in jeopardy by signing an affidavit saying there's no wetlands on their particular property, because they don't know whether it's considered wetlands or not. So I think the ordinance need to be cleaned up in some respect, and we also need to figure out whether the buffer number come from. Because if you're talking with someone with small acreage and you have wetlands on that particular acreage, you made that property practically unbuildable. Because if you're talking with someone with 100 feet width per se, and you're gonna have a 25 feet buffer, now you got a 15 feet setback, and that's on one side, and you got a 15 feet setback on the other side. You know, just do the math there. How much space does a person have to build on that 1 acre tract of property?
So I think
That's
you're
not there.
getting to the crux of where we've got a standoff here is in the dimensions of the setbacks and buffers, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't see anybody saying that we should not have, protect our wetlands. So with that regard, you know, we do have in this, and I've been working on this one for a couple of years, we do have the responsibility to each plat of property that's got a wetlands anywhere near it. We're going to require that we have a wetlands expert come out and mark off that particular line on that piece of property. And then a surveyor's got to come along behind them and plot those points, bearings and distances, and put that on that piece of property so that the owner of the property knows exactly where he is in regard with his property in regards to the wetlands.
Who's paying those costs?
Okay, the property owner.
That's what I'm getting at.
Exactly, and I see absolutely no reason why a property owner can't do that.
Do you know the price of a survey nowadays?
I know not exactly, but I've surveyed and it's expensive.
Right,
So-
and you're imposing
so
that cost on the landowner.
Absolutely, we are to protect our wetlands.
What about the property owner protecting the property owner's property?
Well, there are expenses along with owning property, and
pay
you
your
know that,
taxes.
and I know that.
Yeah, we pay our taxes, but we don't have someone coming that we have to get our property
No, I'm not
surveyed.
talking about taxes. I'm talking about maintenance, upkeep, everything else that you have with regard
That's-
to, if you're a property owner,
Well, that's
there's a
different
lot
from
of
the,
stuff.
that's different from the building that's on the property. We're talking about the
You're
land here.
complaining then about the extra charges that are the burden of the property owner to have somebody come out and tell them where their property starts and where the wetlands start, and that they're both on that piece of property. They're gonna be on a plat, and you don't want that to happen.
Now, when you're purchasing property, most of the time a survey has been done. Okay, when you go out and purchase property, survey has been done. What I'm talking about is when one decides to build on his or her particular tract of property, and you have a tract there. I know there's some exemptions. You have a tract there. You're taking away from the building aspect of that particular perimeter, is what you're doing. So the perimeter there is just not the amount that the property owner intends to build on. You know, if you got wetlands on your particular property and you have a 25 feet buffer, and you have sideline setbacks also, which is about 15 feet from both sides,
Well,
that equates to 65 feet.
didn't you just
buffer.
say that there's gonna be an expense to have the person that can delineate the wetlands on your property and the surveyor to come behind it to mark it off and put it on the plat?
Yes, there will be an
that-
expense to that.
Exactly, and you're gonna start somewhere.
So you're going to put that expense on the property owner?
Absolutely, it's an expense to the property owner, just like I said when we talked about filling in a quarter acre wetlands. I don't remember the number exactly, but it was like $30-some thousand for a quarter-acre wetland to be filled in 2 feet.
We're not talking
And-
about filling in anyway.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying it goes along with this whole discussion that we've had over the past months that this thing's been on the table.
Well, I think the public need to be, well, how many changes, you asked about the meetings and the notices and everything, but how many changes have occurred since those notices and meetings occurred? I mean,
There
been
have
several
been
on there.
changes since the last meeting on some of those dimensions. They went from 50 feet to 25 feet.
But don't you think our public should be aware, be made aware of those particular changes so they can
Well,
know what they need to do?
That's what we're discussing.
You talking about whether we're going to pass this wetlands
That's-
ordinance or not. We're not talking about deferring.
Well,
it to
that
information
that
regarding it.
information was disseminated whenever one of us decided that we needed to tweak it a little bit, and we did that
Disseminated to who? To us or to the public?
to one of us that
To us. So the
was,
public didn't receive it then?
well, oh, yes, they did. Yes, they did.
Well, you just said was there a press release on the particular?
The change was made, and that's why I was asking whether or not there was information going out there to the changes that were made since the last time it was on the agenda, second reading.
Holly, I'd like to take a step backwards in time. We passed the comprehensive plan in 2024. And the comprehensive plan has 10 elements. This basically touches on 3 of those elements, and I would argue also the housing element as well. So this ordinance is basically doing what the comprehensive plan dictates. So this has been out in the public for 4 years, right? So to speak, starting with the comprehensive plan and all of the surveys that we did and all the work that the county did to get the comprehensive plan passed. It gave it the basis to be able to do the wetlands ordinance as it sits. And along the way, things have been negotiated down. It's now down to how many feet?
25 feet of a buffer and then a minimum 15-foot setback, so 40.
Which
Total.
is less than what was dictated in the comprehensive plan.
I don't think the comprehensive plan gave a specific number, but it did talk about protections for all wetlands, jurisdictional, non-jurisdictional, salt and freshwater.
We're basically doing exactly what we said and voted on 2 years ago.
This is the implementation of policy goals from 3 elements of our comprehensive plan.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Counselor
Yes.
Cooper.
What I would like to share, my district, District 3, I'm getting a lot of emails, I'm getting a lot of texts. For the most part of my district, I'm going to read to you all what several of our group in my districts, and they're concerned, even with all the information that's been provided, with all the expert and everything that has been shared, they're still concerned. And listen at this, for example, the question in my district, and it's both black and white, actually that are really concerned. It's just not one group of people. But it said, what's the percentage of wetland in Georgetown County? There's approximately 58%. How does this impact the property zone, the highs? How does the industrial, the commercial district? There are 33 different zoning districts. They're concerned, let's ask for a map of the wetland area. Their concern is what percentage of the properties are under 10%, 10 acre and under. Their concerns are, what are the negative impact to property owners of 10 acres or under? Their concerns in my district, do we have a plan to reduce property tax for owners that are negatively impacted by the ordinance? Their concerns are, what is in the most impacted? Who's impacted the most? My constituent concerns are, I think Santee area, can this ordinance stand a legal challenge? They're concerned, other information we need to discuss. They're concerned in my district that the lack of protection in the county infrastructure currently in Georgetown County. And so I want to be able to speak. I'm here to serve the people, and I appreciate everything that has been presented. And yes, it may have been on the table 4 years ago. And yes, all of this may have been here for a long time. But there's still a lot of people have tremendous concern. And so from my perspective, I think we as a people, it's tough decision. But why can't we give it a little more time? It's been 4 years. But I have a lot of people still frustrated. They still have some concern, even with the expert, even with the knowledge, whether it's in another area, we in this area, what we're dealing with. And we can go on, and I want to make it clear. I want to make it very clear, so there's no question what I'm saying. But what I want to be clear about, I'm here to represent everybody in the county. I'm here to make a difference all that I can. But I want to make it clear that when I look at my district, and I'm getting District 3, but it's not only my district, but the people they have the concern. And one of the things that they asked me, can we put it on the ballot? There's something to think about. And for some of us, we may say, well, let the people vote on it. You know, we're making a decision, there's 7 of us, that's fine. But what about the people? What about the people at large? It's something to consider. There's something to think about, even with all the information that's been provided. I'm constantly getting emails. Councilor Cooper, what's going to happen? What the decision's going to happen here? I want to share that. That's my take on it, even with all the experts, all the information, all those have spoken, and everybody that have spoken tonight based on this. But the numbers are 6, and I love numbers, 6 to 9. 6 to 9. 9 saying let's do it, 6 opposing it. But even with all the 4 years ago, people still don't have the clarity. We may say we do, but what about those people that don't? We want to make a decision tonight, and I understand it's been here, and what we said, you know, what Ms. Richardson has presented, and I appreciate everything that you presented, Ms. Richardson. I don't want to take anything away from anyone, but I want to have an equilibrium. I want to have a balance for the people at large, not just for those of us that are in the room tonight. Equilibrium is having a balance for the people and the people at large. You're a part of the people. You're part of the people. We're all a part. But let's just consider that. That's what my take is.
Bishop Cooper, could I ask you a question here? It seems to me, and just the discussion up here amongst us, that the real problem we have is that we are asking for some more subjective time. When if somebody could give me a reason to have some objective time, not subjective, where specific items are addressed and put to bed so that we can ratify this wetlands ordinance. Am I making sense to you? If somebody could do that and say, you know, here's some specific things that I need changed for me to go along with this as an individual counselor.
I hate to interrupt here, but I can give you some objective findings. The setbacks, for instance, you know, you're talking about the setbacks, well, you're talking about the buffer, and you have a setback. Why can't it all be inclusive? Why can't it just be this setback is included within the buffer? You know, for those type of things. So that's an objective rationale, isn't it?
Yes, and you're asking,
also,
you're asking the objective question.
Right, and
maybe we can settle that.
Maybe we can settle it, exactly.
Right.
That's why we need to have it
Right.
deferred, so we can.
Right,
settle this
and
matter.
we should do that, but we should come up with a list of things that are going to either make it or break it, and discuss those and get this behind us. But
And I agree with you, and that's a good reason for deferring it. So we can come up with those rationales. So we can get it
and
back.
if that's what it's going to take, yes, sir.
Here's, I have a few questions for Holly, and might interest you. Let's see what she has to say.
Have you got some objective
This has not
questions?
been discussed, to my knowledge. I could have missed it, but we're looking at the land that will be affected, property. A lot of this land is going to decrease in value. Is that a fair statement? It's going to be affected.
It's going to be affected, yes, sir. I mean, it will affect the number of lots that could potentially go on a site.
Correct.
Under development.
Yeah. I mean, it could be an individual that has 5 acres that want to sell to 5 individuals. And once we pass this ordinance, it could affect those. Maybe he only gets to sell 3. Maybe he only gets to sell 4. but
still clustered.
almost every piece of land will be affected, is what I'm getting at. Is that correct?
If there are wetlands on the site,
Correct. All right.
if there are wetlands over half an acre on the site,
That's correct.
then it would be and they subdivide into 3 or more lots, then yes, sir, it would be
Correct.
affected.
So this is huge amount of land. We've heard all kind of acreage. I'd asked a question early on in this debate months ago. We didn't know if we had passed this ordinance last year. We don't know how many acres of wetlands we would have saved. And if we passed it, we don't know how many acres we will save the upcoming year. But that being said, the land is affected by value. We just went through assessment, and we might need to get the Madam Administrator to join us in on this. Let's bring it back to finance. When we just finished reassessment, so you're gonna change some value of some land, some rather large changes, some just minor. What does the county have? What mechanism do we have in place? Because we're finishing our fiscal year next week. We paid our taxes first part of the year for this fiscal year. So we have till January 27 before those notices come back out. So those people that, because of this ordinance, we have devalued their land. How are we going to adjust that tax notice?
I am definitely not the finance expert nor the tax expert. I would hope I'm correct in saying that the tax assessment will be based on how the property is currently used, not on a future subdivision that could happen. I don't think that assessment would come until that parcel, those new lots were created.
So we could possibly, in this scenario, we could possibly have someone paying 5 years property taxes off a piece of land that is nowhere near its actual value because of the wetlands.
Raymond, I've got a question. What you
And
brought up,
let-
you
let
brought
me-
up a good point there, and I want to add to what you're saying whenever you're finished.
Yeah. And if that's the case, if it's just one individual in this county that happens, and this ordinance is wrong. If just one individual suffers that, then I'm sure it's gonna be a lot more than that.
Well,
That-
you know,
this-
that's a question I think with what I'm going to say might help you. And
Go
that
right ahead.
is when our assessor goes out and looks at a piece of property, my question is, do wetlands even come into play as far as land that will be, that should already be unusable for the wetlands itself? Forgetting about all these setbacks and everything. Does that make sense? And I don't know the answer to that. And if we're not doing that during the assessment period, maybe that's something that we should do in the future if you're worried about that being an impact on the property value. Am I making sense?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's gonna affect property values, and we're gonna be requiring residents to pay property tax on values pre-WPO.
Well, we finished our assessments for this
That's right.
year.
And
but-
there's no mechanism in place to, and I'm not saying, like some of them here, we're not confiscating property, but we're definitely, we don't have anything set up in the financial realm right now to figure out how do we make these residents whole from these properties we're going to devalue
You know,
from a tax
we've
standpoint.
never had a wetlands ordinance, and we've needed one for years. I can tell you a lot of stories about that, and I've explained to everybody up here is that a wetlands is a natural retention pond and that we need all of them in places like District 3 where we have a lot of flooding. But what you're saying, I understand as far as if wetlands are going to impact the cost or the value of the property, are we even, is our assessor even looking at that?
Oh, we do
Am I
have a
making sense?
mechanism, we do have a mechanism in place to address that. It's appeals on the assessment. So all property owners would need to do would be to appeal the assessment.
This could go on for 5 years. before somebody
Exactly. That's
even
what I'm
realize
saying. We've
they
got to
just been
put something
paying
over the finish
5
line.
years of taxes, at an overrated rate, millage rate, or however you want to say it. It's not, you're gonna have residents paying a property tax at, incorrect rate based off the
Well,
value
it's
of that
correct
property.
as far as we know right now on the way we're doing this.
And this
appraisals.
this council who is responsible for this has,
By implementing a wetlands ordinance?
by implementing this and having, not have the tools in order to take care of getting down in the weeds of this ordinance.
So are you
This is one of, there's many others, but this is a major. And the ones that'll be affected, and Lewis can attest in District 3, District 7, District 3 from Ernie, of course in District 5. A lot of our people are the ones that can least afford to pay these.
Okay, and I'm hearing you. So what,
Just like everybody you heard here speaking tonight, especially the ones who was for it, I didn't recognize anybody from this side.
well,
Everybody was
let
from
me
the
get
walk
back to
along
the
neck over
point
here,
you're
but they
making.
want to tell us how we should be handling our property. For over 300 years, we've been taking care of this thing. And the problem is, we did too good of a job, because if we hadn't done such a good job taking care of our wetlands and our highlands, a lot of you wouldn't be in here tonight. That might
I
be
think
hard to
I've
hear.
heard this story before. But in all seriousness, I don't have a problem with looking at whether or not wetlands are going to impact the assessors. But we could do this. We could compromise by saying that we're going to put this in the ordinance so that next year, when the assessor assesses property, that we make sure that we consider the wetlands on that piece of property. Would you buy into that?
I think the prudent thing to do would be to defer this until we have a better grasp. Because the longer this thing goes
Defer
on,
it for how long?
more,
We haven't had an ordinance for 300 years. Maybe we just defer it for another 300 years.
and just think, and you survive. And I know.
I'm a survivor, yes.
Okay, in an effort to move things along, because we can do this all night long, we've got a motion to defer and a second. So let's go ahead and vote on the motion to defer, and then we can move on, proceed from there. So
Mr. Chairman, call for a roll call vote.
there's been a call for a roll call vote on the motion to defer. So, Ms. Clerk, all in favor?
Mr. Anderson,
No.
Morant,
In favor.
Vice Chair,
Nay.
Mr. Chair,
Nay.
Mr. Newton,
In favor?
Bishop,
In favor.
Mr. Trump.
No.
That's only 3, 4, and 4 against, so
Motion failed.
it fails.
So the motion fails. Okay, so now we move on to the main motion. So we will have our report from Ms. Holly Richardson.
Thank you. I will, and be glad to answer your specific questions as well. I do want to quickly go over the changes that we made for third reading. These changes were published when the agenda was published. and were sent out to the public at that time. They're highlighted in red in your ordinance. As has already been discussed, the minimum buffer amount was changed from 35 feet to 25 feet. The riparian or the river and river wetland buffer amount was reduced from 50 feet down to 25 feet. And the buffers for new golf courses were also reduced from 35 feet down to 25 feet, so that 25 feet will become the minimum in the general wetlands buffer and will be consistent for those uses. The wetlands setback is still at a minimum of 15 feet or whatever the setback from the zoning ordinance is, but at a minimum of 15 feet. You're correct, Mr. Morant, the buffer ordinance and the setback is in addition to the proposed buffer amount. The wetlands setback is not in addition to the zoning ordinance setback. Those two things would run together, but the buffer and the setback amount are in addition to, and that is based on the, I guess, policy sort of recommendation we looked at from DNR and other agencies that the additional setback was needed to protect the buffer that was there. We also amended the applicability section to say that the wetland buffers and setbacks would only be measured and enforced on the property that contained the delineated wetland, meaning that a property owner would not be responsible for maintaining a buffer from a wetland on a neighbor's property, unless that wetland, of course, crosses over into their property. The exemption section was also amended to address, we had some comments about the need to enlarge or improve water control structures within existing duck impoundments in some of our conservation easement properties in the western part of the county. We added a specific exemption for that. We specifically listed gazebos as an exemption to go along with piers and docks, which was an existing section. And we also clarified a section to make it match another section that said that once a wetland permit is issued, it's valid for a period of 5 years. And the chart in the back, the drawing that shows the buffer and the setbacks was amended to reflect the 25-foot minimum. We also did get some questions about heirs property and how heirs property would be affected. I wanted to mention that we do have a section in our current zoning ordinance that allows, if a property is heirs property, they can place multiple structures on the site without subdividing, as long as they can meet the density requirements. We also have a zoning district VR10 that allows for the same thing. So it should not affect those properties as long as they can stay within the density, because they will still be considered an existing lot of record. So until such time as they're able to subdivide that property into 3 lots or more, the proposed ordinance would not apply. They would be exempted as an existing lot of record. And I think that probably is the biggest exemption. Certainly our goal here is to improve and protect our valuable wetlands. It certainly is not our goal to place an extra burden on existing property owners. Our goal here was to have improved development and provide some protections for the wetlands, as was a policy goal of the comprehensive plan. I know we did get some comments about the idea of having an affidavit from a property owner for when there were no wetlands on the site. And that was really included to allow for a site that, if we look on the aerial and it's an upland planted pine, for example, there's no question that there's no wetlands on the site. Obviously, we don't want that property owner to go to the expense of having wetlands delineation done. If it's something we can verify with our aerial maps, if it's something we can verify with the National Wetlands Inventory and the property owner's affidavit, then we wanted that to be able to suffice without that extra expense. Obviously, if there's a question based on information we can obtain, then we would have to require that additional information from the property owner at that time. If you have any other questions for me, I'll be glad to try to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Holly. Are any questions for Ms. Holly on ordinance 2616?
Holly, could you go over all of the exceptions? Just maybe read them out loud.
Sure. I think one thing to mention too, we have exempted wetlands that are a quarter acre or smaller are exempt from our fill requirements. So you would not need an application to fill a wetland that it's a quarter acre or smaller. If a wetland is half an acre or smaller, then you do not have to have a buffer or the wetland setback off that wetland. It's half an acre or larger where the buffer will apply. And then we do have specific exemptions. If you have a pre-approved mitigation permit from the Corps of Engineers or the Department of Environmental Services, that would be, obviously, we would honor that. The installation of nature trails or pervious pedestrian access paths. You can prune or trim and clean up any vegetation that's within the buffer. Timber harvesting, forestry activities, controlled burns, the planting of native species and plants, the removal of invasive species of plants, outdoor recreation activities, research activities. We also have an exemption for industrial projects that have approved economic development incentives by the state or by the county. They are exempt from the non-jurisdictional wetlands requirements. The buffers for jurisdictional would still apply. When I mentioned earlier, the maintenance, repair, or enlargement of water control structures for waterfowl impoundments, the maintenance and repair of existing public utilities, infrastructure, or roadways, the construction of new public utilities, critical infrastructure, and/or roadways, the maintenance of wetlands through prescribed fire applications, piers, docks, decks, gazebos, gangways, boardwalks, seawalls, bulkheads, and other like-kind structures, provided they have approval from the necessary agencies. Also, construction activities on all developed and undeveloped but existing lots of record. So as long as you are utilizing your lot in its current state as it's approved today, whether it's vacant today, whether you're adding a building, as long as you're building on the lot as it exists today, the buffer and setback requirements would not apply. We also have exempted family subdivisions as they're defined in our land development regulations. We also exempted parcel splits of one lot into two. So it's only when you take that lot and you create three that the ordinance would kick in. We used three because that is the requirement for stormwater. Once you get to three lots, you have to submit to stormwater and land disturbance. So that's why we included two lots as an exemption. Also, if you're merging two parcels, obviously you don't have an existing lot of record anymore. That makes a new lot, but we didn't want someone to have the ordinance kick in when they're actually reducing density by merging two lots. Stormwater facilities and easements are allowed in the buffer area. A swimming pool is allowed within the wetland setback. We did write a specific exemption for canal lots on Sandy Island if they receive a variance from the Zoning Board of Appeals, which most of those lots have to receive one anyway. They don't meet minimum requirements of the zoning ordinance. And this was an addition by the Planning Commission recommendation that if there are development projects that have been submitted already and are under review by the state or the federal, that they would be exempt as well if they've already started the process. Any prior non-conforming uses would be exempt. They just could not be enlarged or expanded. And I think that's the list.
Ms. Richardson?
Yes.
If we're going to pass it, in terms of for the constituent, will we mail out some form of packet or something that they can have that is informative? Can you reinforce and intensify? Will the county do that overall for our constituent?
I don't know that we have historically done a large mail out like that, because this, applies countywide. That would be very significant, but we certainly could work with Ms. Akers to do a press release, like a fact sheet, push information out on social media. We could make it available on our website. We could have handouts available that we could give or place in the libraries or wherever you would like. I mean, we could certainly make that information as available as possible.
I would appreciate it because we understand that we have the website, but there's so many people that's still illiterate of the website. Even
Sure.
if you're mailing something, you have announcement, and some people still not getting it. So I want to be able to reinforce, intensify that we're able to go above and beyond the call of duty because of this. Because if it's going to move forward, let us move forward. We're doing everything now that we can to make sure that the people are informed or have something tangible. They need to have something tangible. It's a necessity. If you would do that, please.
Yes,
on
sir.
behalf of the
Certainly
county.
can
Thank
be
you.
glad to.
Thank you.
Ms. Richardson, you mentioned exemption for Ayers property. Can you clarify that a little more for me? I think I kind of missed something along the way.
Yes, sir. In our zoning ordinance today, we only allow one principal use per lot. So if you have a lot, no matter what it's zoned, you can only put one main structure on that lot until you subdivide it to meet the zoning ordinance. We wrote in an exemption for Ayers property when we zoned the rest of the western part of the county because we had so many tracts that could not be subdivided or would have difficulty getting a true subdivision. So what that exemption says is that as long as you can meet the density, if you could draw, let's say if it's zoned VR10 for 10,000 square foot lots, as long as you could draw some imaginary lot lines and still have 10,000 square feet for each structure that you placed on the site, you would not have to subdivide. It's sort of an exemption to our one principal use policy. So if someone is utilizing that tract of Ayers property, they could still, as long as they can meet the density, place those structures on that, and it would be an existing lot of record under our ordinance.
How does it apply if the Ayers decide that they want to partition their property? And instead of just having it as one particular lot, they decide to partition their property into different tracts.
That's right.
That exemption goes away?
Unless they do it under the family subdivision, yes. If they create more than 3 lots, then that would be a development.
Although there's
per our
nothing,
ordinance.
okay, so they'll have to comply with the ordinance at that particular time, or would they have to comply with it when they start to do some type of development?
When they start to do the development.
Development.
Yes, sir.
Is there a hardship variance within this?
We don't, I don't think we use the word hardship specifically in this section, but there is a variance procedure that would go through the zoning board of appeals, and that language does have hardship as one of the criteria to address. Yes, sir.
Are there any further questions from Ms. Richardson? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to incorporate the amended text. Is there a motion on the floor? So moved by Councilor Mercado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Anderson. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? The motion passes 4-3. Now we'll call for a motion to approve the ordinance as amended. Is there a motion on the floor to approve the ordinance as amended? So moved by Councilor Mercado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Anderson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Motion carries 4-3. So move down to ordinance 2617, an amendment of the fiscal year 2025-2026 budget ordinance. We have a report from Ms. Megan Colgrove, our finance director. Ms. Colgrove, you have the floor.
Thank you. Ordinance 2617 amends the current fiscal year 25-26 operating budget as outlined in the body of the ordinance. There's amendment from the second reading. $1 million has been added to the amendment to cover the down payment of the emergency radio upgrade project. This includes $200,000 from the general fund, $80,000 from County Fire District 1, $120,000 from Midway Fire District 2, and $600,000 from Law Enforcement Fund. All of these are being funded from their fund balances. I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. Otherwise, we request third reading approval of ordinance 2617.
Thank you, Ms. Colgrove. Are there any questions for Ms. Colgrove on ordinance 2617?
That's for the current year.
Yes.
I'm sorry. What now?
That was a clarification I was making to council.
Okay, I'm sorry. All right, hearing no questions, the chair will hear and entertain a motion to incorporate the amended text. Is there a motion on the floor? So moved by Counselor Cooper. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Mercado. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? Motion to incorporate the amended text passes. Move now to the original motion. We call for a motion to approve the ordinance as amended. Is there a motion on the floor? So moved by Counselor Mercado. Is there a second? Second by Counselor Morant. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Ordinance passes. Ordinance 2618, an ordinance to amend the ordinance 2021-05 and to ratify, authorize, reallocate, and approve expenditures of capital sales tax revenues for community projects. We have a report again from Ms. Colgrove. Ms. Colgrove, you have the floor.
Ordinance 2618 is an ordinance to amend the use of surplus 2014 capital project sales tax funds for the purchase of a new ambulance. The funding being requested comes completely from surplus funds that were not previously assigned to any project or district. We are happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, we request third reading approval of ordinance 2618.
Thank you, Ms. Colgrove. You've heard the report from Ms. Colgrove. Are there any questions for Ms. Colgrove on ordinance 2618? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion on ordinance 2618, an ordinance to amend the ordinance 2021-05 and to ratify, authorize, reallocate, and approve expenditures for capital sales tax revenues for community projects. Is there a motion on the floor? So moved by Counselor Mercado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Cooper. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? Ordinance passes. We move down to first reading of ordinances. Following ordinances are to be read into the record by title only. Ordinance 2619, authorizing and approving an amendment to the existing agreement for the development of joint county industrial and business park by and between Georgetown County, South Carolina, and Williamsburg County, South Carolina, as amended to provide for an extended term of inclusion of property in the park and providing for other related matters, SR of Georgetown LLC. We also have ordinance 26-20, an ordinance to amend ordinance number 2007-65 to regulate trucks in excess of 10 wheels on county maintained roads within the boundaries of Georgetown County. Move down to approval of minutes, our regular council meeting minutes from May 26, 2026. Is there a motion to approve the amendments? Or minutes, I'm sorry. So moved by Counselor Mercado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Anderson. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. All opposed? Minutes are approved. Is there any further business to come before council at this time? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. So moved by Counselor Mercado. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Counselor Cooper. Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hands. All opposed? We stand adjourned.